Welcome to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries. Have you ever felt like your chest is caving in, your breath coming short and shallow, while an invisible weight presses down on your shoulders? Have you experienced those relentless, racing thoughts that refuse to quiet down no matter how much you try to distract yourself? Anxiety, that silent, relentless companion, can feel like an uninvited guest that overstays its welcome. It doesn't knock before entering. It barges in, taking over your thoughts, your body, and sometimes even your life. But what if we told you that you're not alone in this experience? What if someone has taken this tangled web of sensations, fears, and uncertainties and turned it into a deeply personal, illuminating exploration? Welcome to Anxiety for Beginners, a personal investigation by Eleanor Morgan. This isn't your typical self-help book. It's not a clinical manual filled with jargon or a generic list of coping strategies. It's raw. It's honest. It's a deeply human account of what it means to live with anxiety, written by someone who knows it all too well. Eleanor Morgan doesn't just explain anxiety. She loves it. She invites you into her world with courage, compassion, and an unflinching willingness to confront the hard questions. Why do we feel this way? Where does anxiety come from? And most importantly, how can we learn to coexist with it without letting it define us? Morgan's journey begins in a place many of us might find familiar, the inexplicable and overwhelming sense that something is wrong. She describes her earliest encounters with anxiety, painting vivid scenes of how it took root in her life, shaping her thoughts, behaviors, and even her identity. As you listen to her story, you'll find echoes of your own experiences. Her vivid descriptions of panic attacks, intrusive thoughts, and the constant hum of worry are at once deeply personal and universally relatable. But what sets this book apart is Morgan's determination to understand anxiety from every angle. She dives into the science, exploring how our brains and bodies respond to stress and fear. She delves into the cultural and societal factors that influence our mental health, questioning why anxiety seems to be on the rise in our modern world. And she examines the deeply personal, the unique cocktail of genetics, upbringing, and life experiences that shape each individual's relationship with anxiety. Through it all, Morgan balances her investigative rigor with a warm, conversational tone that makes even the most complex concepts feel accessible. One of the most striking aspects of Anxiety for Beginners is its focus on storytelling. Morgan doesn't just share her own journey, she weaves in the voices of others who have experienced anxiety in its many forms. From high-achieving professionals to young students, from those battling social anxiety to those navigating the aftermath of trauma, these stories remind us of the vast spectrum of anxiety and the diverse ways it manifests in our lives. They also underscore an essential truth: anxiety doesn't discriminate. It touches people from all walks of life, regardless of age, gender, or background. As you immerse yourself in this book, you'll find yourself nodding along, feeling seen, understood, and, perhaps for the first time, not so alone. Morgan's vulnerability is a gift to her readers, offering a safe space to confront their own fears and uncertainties. She doesn't shy away from the difficult moments, the times when anxiety felt unbearable, when seeking help seemed impossible, or when the stigma surrounding mental health loomed large. Yet, she also shares moments of hope, resilience, and growth. Her journey is a testament to the fact that while anxiety may always be a part of us, it doesn't have to control us. What makes this book even more powerful is its balance of empathy and practicality. Morgan doesn't just tell her story, she equips readers with tools and insights to navigate their own anxiety. From mindfulness practices and therapy to understanding the role of diet, exercise, and sleep, she explores a wide range of strategies that can help. But she also emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Each person's path to managing anxiety is unique, and what works for one may not work for another. This acknowledgement makes her advice feel grounded and realistic, rather than prescriptive or overwhelming. Another layer of depth in Anxiety for Beginners is its exploration of the intersection between anxiety and identity. Morgan tackles questions that many of us grapple with. How does anxiety shape the way we see ourselves? How does it influence our relationships, our careers, and our dreams? And perhaps most importantly, how can we reclaim our sense of self from the grip of anxiety? These reflections are not only thought-provoking but also empowering, encouraging readers to see themselves as more than their anxiety. But this book isn't just about the individual experience of anxiety, it's also a call to action. Morgan challenges us to think about how we, as a society, approach mental health. She critiques the stigma that still surrounds anxiety, the lack of accessible mental health resources, and the ways our fast-paced, high-pressure culture exacerbates stress and fear. Her insights urge us to create a world that's more understanding, compassionate, and supportive, not just for those with anxiety, but for everyone. As you listen to Anxiety for Beginners, a personal investigation, you'll find yourself on a journey of self-discovery, empathy, and empowerment. Morgan's words will resonate with you on a deeply personal level, whether you're someone who has experienced anxiety firsthand or someone seeking to better understand and support a loved one. Her honesty, humor, and humanity make this book a compelling and transformative listen, offering not just insights, but also a sense of connection and hope. So, as you settle in and prepare to dive into this exploration of anxiety, take a moment to breathe. Know that you're in good company, guided by someone who's been where you are and who's unafraid to ask the hard questions and share the honest answers. Together, let's navigate the complexities of anxiety and discover what it means to not just survive but thrive in the face of it. Welcome to Anxiety for Beginners by Eleanor Morgan, a book that will not only change the way you understand anxiety, but also the way you understand yourself. Part 1 Summary of Anxiety for Beginners, a personal investigation by Eleanor Morgan. Eleanor Morgan's Anxiety for Beginners is a deeply personal and compelling exploration of anxiety. In the first part of the book, Morgan dives into her personal experiences and investigates the roots of anxiety, blending memoir with scientific research to create an engaging narrative. She discusses how anxiety manifests, its impact on daily life, and the broader societal factors that influence mental health. Chapter 1: The Unseen Enemy. Morgan opens the book by recounting her earliest encounters with anxiety, painting a vivid picture of the physical and emotional toll it took on her life. She describes her first panic attack, a sudden, paralyzing wave of dread that left her breathless and trembling. This moment becomes a turning point, as she begins to question what anxiety is and why it feels so overwhelming. Through her storytelling, Morgan captures the isolating nature of anxiety, highlighting how it can make people feel like they're losing control of their minds and bodies. She normalizes the experience by explaining that millions of people suffer from anxiety, yet it remains a taboo topic in many cultures. This chapter also introduces the theme of shame, which often accompanies anxiety. Morgan reflects on how societal expectations of perfection and control can exacerbate feelings of inadequacy, making it harder for people to seek help. Chapter 2: What is Anxiety? In this chapter, Morgan unpacks the science behind anxiety, blending her personal experiences with insights from experts. She explains that anxiety is a natural survival mechanism, a fight-or-flight response that evolved to protect humans from danger. However, in modern society, this mechanism can become overactive, causing people to feel threatened even in safe situations. Morgan dives into the biology of anxiety, discussing the role of the amygdala, the limbic system, and stress hormones like cortisol. She explains how these components interact to create the physical symptoms of anxiety, such as a racing heart, sweating, and shortness of breath. What makes this chapter particularly engaging is Morgan's ability to balance scientific facts with relatable anecdotes. She shares how her anxiety often spirals out of control due to seemingly small triggers, such as a missed phone call or a tight deadline. Her honesty and vulnerability make the information feel accessible and grounded in real-life experiences. Chapter 3. The Roots of Anxiety. Here, Morgan explores the factors that contribute to anxiety, from genetics to upbringing. She reflects on her own childhood, describing how certain experiences may have shaped her anxious tendencies. For example, she recalls being a sensitive and perfectionistic child, always striving to meet the high expectations of those around her. Morgan also delves into the concept of intergenerational trauma, explaining how anxiety can be passed down through families. She interviews experts who discuss how parents' behaviors and coping mechanisms can influence their children's mental health. Additionally, she examines environmental factors such as societal pressures, social media, and the constant barrage of information in the digital age. Morgan argues that our modern lifestyles often fuel anxiety, making it harder for people to disconnect and recharge. Chapter 4. Living with Anxiety. This chapter provides a raw and honest look at how anxiety affects daily life. Morgan shares candid anecdotes about her struggles with relationships, work, and self-esteem. She describes the constant inner dialogue of self-doubt and fear, which often leaves her feeling exhausted and stuck. One particularly poignant story involves her decision to cancel a long-awaited trip because she couldn't overcome her fear of flying. This experience becomes a metaphor for how anxiety can shrink a person's world, limiting their opportunities and experiences. Morgan also highlights the importance of self-awareness in managing anxiety. She discusses the process of identifying triggers and patterns, as well as the value of acknowledging anxious thoughts without judgment. Chapter 5. Anxiety in the Modern World. In this chapter, Morgan shifts her focus to the societal factors that contribute to anxiety. She critiques the fast-paced, achievement-oriented culture that prioritizes productivity over well-being. Morgan argues that this relentless pressure to succeed leaves little room for rest, reflection, and self-care. She also examines the role of technology, particularly social media, in fueling anxiety. Morgan shares how comparing herself to others on Instagram exacerbates her feelings of inadequacy. She discusses the addictive nature of likes and notifications, which can create a cycle of validation and self-doubt. To provide a broader perspective, Morgan includes insights from psychologists and sociologists who study the impact of modern lifestyles on mental health. This chapter serves as a call to action, urging readers to question the societal norms that perpetuate anxiety and prioritize their well-being. Chapter 6. The Search for Relief. The final chapter of Part 1 focuses on Morgan's journey to find effective coping strategies. She candidly shares her experiences with therapy, medication, and alternative treatments, offering an honest assessment of what worked and what didn't. Morgan reflects on her initial reluctance to seek help, fueled by the stigma surrounding mental health. She describes her eventual decision to try cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which helped her challenge negative thought patterns and develop healthier coping mechanisms. She also discusses the role of medication, explaining how antidepressants provided much-needed relief during her darkest moments. However, she emphasizes that medication is not a one-size-fits-all solution and encourages readers to explore different options. Throughout this chapter, Morgan maintains a tone of hope and resilience. She acknowledges that managing anxiety is an ongoing process, but reassures readers that recovery is possible with the right tools and support. Final thoughts on Part 1. Part 1 of Anxiety for Beginners is a captivating blend of memoir, science, and social commentary. Eleanor Morgan's honesty and vulnerability make her story relatable, while her thoughtful analysis provides valuable insights into the nature of anxiety. Listeners are drawn into her journey, eager to learn more about how she navigates the challenges of anxiety and discovers paths to healing. The first part sets the stage for a deeper exploration of coping strategies and recovery in Part 2, leaving readers hooked and ready to continue the journey.
Part 2.
In Part 2 of Anxiety for Beginners, Eleanor Morgan delves into practical approaches for managing anxiety, offering readers a mix of evidence-based strategies, personal reflections, and societal observations. This section shifts from exploring the roots and experiences of anxiety to focusing on how to navigate it, empowering readers to regain control over their mental well-being. Morgan strikes a balance between vulnerability and optimism, sharing her own trial-and-error journey to finding effective solutions while providing actionable advice for readers to integrate into their own lives. Chapter 7. The Therapy Toolkit. Morgan begins Part 2 by expanding on her experiences with therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. She explains how CBT works, detailing the process of identifying distorted thoughts and challenging them with evidence-based reasoning. Morgan recounts specific techniques she learned in therapy, such as thought records and behavioral experiments. For example, she shares an anecdote about confronting her fear of public speaking by breaking it into smaller, manageable steps. Over time, this gradual exposure helped her build confidence and reduce her anxiety. Beyond CBT, Morgan explores other therapeutic modalities, such as mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT, and acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. She emphasizes that therapy is not a quick fix, but a process that requires patience and commitment. Chapter 8. Medication, a controversial ally. In this chapter, Morgan tackles the often polarizing topic of medication for anxiety. She shares her personal decision to try antidepressants, describing how they alleviated her symptoms during a particularly challenging period. Morgan addresses common misconceptions about medication, such as the fear of dependency or losing one's sense of self. She clarifies that medication is not about erasing emotions, but rather about stabilizing them enough to engage in meaningful recovery work. To provide a balanced perspective, Morgan includes insights from medical professionals and discusses potential side effects. She encourages readers to view medication as one tool in a broader toolbox, emphasizing the importance of combining it with therapy and lifestyle changes. Chapter 9. The Power of Lifestyle Changes. Morgan highlights the profound impact of lifestyle factors on mental health, advocating for a holistic approach to managing anxiety. She emphasizes the importance of regular exercise, which has been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety by releasing endorphins and improving sleep. Nutrition also plays a key role in this chapter, as Morgan discusses how certain foods can affect mood and energy levels. She shares her own journey of experimenting with dietary changes, such as reducing caffeine and sugar and noticing improvements in her anxiety levels. Sleep is another focal point, with Morgan explaining the vicious cycle of anxiety and insomnia. She offers practical tips for improving sleep hygiene, such as creating a calming bedtime routine and limiting screen time before bed. Chapter 10. Building Resilience Through Mindfulness. Mindfulness emerges as a central theme in this chapter, with Morgan exploring its potential to rewire the brain and cultivate a greater sense of calm. She describes her initial skepticism toward mindfulness practices, admitting that they felt uncomfortable and unnatural at first. Over time, however, Morgan learned to appreciate the power of mindfulness in breaking the cycle of rumination and worry. She provides a step-by-step guide to basic mindfulness techniques such as deep breathing, body scans, and guided meditations. Morgan also discusses the broader philosophy of mindfulness, which emphasizes living in the present moment and accepting emotions without judgment. This mindset, she explains, can help reduce the grip of anxiety by fostering a sense of inner peace and self-compassion. Chapter 11. The Role of Connection. Social support becomes the focus of this chapter, as Morgan reflects on the importance of building and maintaining meaningful relationships. She candidly shares her struggles with isolation and the fear of burdening others with her anxiety. Morgan emphasizes that connection is a vital antidote to anxiety, as it helps people feel understood and less alone. She encourages readers to open up to trusted friends and family members, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. The chapter also explores the concept of community, with Morgan advocating for support groups and online forums where individuals can share their experiences and learn from one another. She includes stories from others who have found solace and strength in these spaces. Chapter 12: Reclaiming Control in an Overwhelming World. In the final chapter, Morgan reflects on the societal changes needed to create a more supportive environment for those with anxiety. She critiques the relentless pace of modern life, which often leaves little room for rest and self-care. Morgan urges readers to set boundaries and prioritize their well-being, even if it means stepping away from certain obligations or relationships. She shares her own experiences of learning to say no and letting go of perfectionism, which brought a sense of freedom and empowerment. This chapter also highlights the importance of advocating for mental health awareness and reducing stigma. Morgan encourages readers to speak openly about their experiences, as this can inspire others to seek help and foster a culture of compassion. Final thoughts on Part 2. Part 2 of Anxiety for Beginners is an uplifting and practical guide to navigating anxiety. Eleanor Morgan's blend of personal anecdotes and expert insights creates a relatable and actionable narrative, offering readers a roadmap to recovery. Her emphasis on self-awareness, self-compassion, and resilience empowers readers to take small, meaningful steps toward managing their anxiety. By the end of the book, Morgan leaves readers with a sense of hope and a toolkit for reclaiming their lives from the grip of anxiety. Read the book to learn more. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new video updates.